Hey, what's good, y'all, man? Today, I want to talk to you all about your power, all right? I want to talk to you about your giftedness and what might happen to you as a result of being somebody that's gifted. If you're like me, there's a lot of things that are easy for you. There's a lot of things that come to you naturally. You might be able to speak well without things being planned out to the T. You might be able to fix things just by looking at them and knowing what's missing. You might be able to read people. You might be able to read situations. Your gifts and abilities that God has given you has put you in a position where there's certain things that just come easy to you that may be a little bit more difficult for other people. As a result of this, sometimes what I'm seeing, and I'm not gonna lie, it hit me like a train in the chest today when I was reading in John. I was in John chapter 6. One thing I noticed is that sometimes when you are gifted, sometimes when you are a large benefit to your community, to your family, to the world around you, individuals can begin to want to put you in different positions. Individuals will see what you have to offer. They'll see what you're able to do, what you're able to be, what you could be for the masses, and it can be awesome and magnificent things. But at the same time, the exact positions that others might want to put you into might not necessarily be for you. How did this thought truly come about? I'm gonna take y'all there. And so in John chapter 6, there's a multitude of people, right? And Jesus basically is testing the apostles. He says, look, how do you think we should feed them? And the apostles start talking about how it would take half a year's wages to be able to feed this crowd of people. But then as a young man, he has fish and loaves. Of course, Christ does what he does. He turns the fish and loaves into enough to feed all of the people with some left over. Now, this is the thing right here. At verse 14, it says, after the people saw the sign that Jesus performed, they began to say, surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world. Then at verse 15, it says, Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to the mountain by himself. I'm gonna say that last verse one more time. Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself. Why is this so important? Why is it so important, or why did this scream to me, and why do I think it should scream to you? It's because what you notice is they were going to offer him a position that a lot of individuals might even kill for. They were going to elevate him into a spot that brothers would contend and argue about. I don't know if you all have ever gotten into history of the Roman Empire, but if you were able to see, or if you would be able to see the number of individuals who came into power by killing the person that was in power, it's ridiculous. When you look at the ancient world and you look at power in and of itself and position and status, it was something to be had. What came with power and riches and status? You had position, you had authority, you could get what you want when you wanted. You had say so, and people had to move when you snapped your fingers. There were individuals who would have wanted nothing more to be in that very same position. And you mean to tell me they were finna try to come and put Jesus in that position by force, and he sneaks away and slips away? One might have to ask themselves the question, why did Jesus slip away? And it might be obvious to some, but I really think that's an important question to pose. Why did Jesus slip away? I will argue with you that he knew, though, that it was a position that some people might want, though it may be a position that could bring temporary pleasure and gain, though it is a position that people would yearn, men would yearn, fight, and even die about, that position did not serve the purpose that he was placed on earth for. Where the people wanted to elevate him to did not serve the purpose that he was put on earth for. And it's crazy because the same thing happens to us, especially if you're gifted, if you're talented, if you can do things well. Say you're great with music and you can sing really well and produce well. Say you're really good with numbers and digits and money and charts. Say you're a really great leader and your voice is strong and you have the ability to influence and move people. There's individuals who will see what you are able to do, and they're going to want to put you in a position because of what you're able to do and what they see you're good for, what they see you're able to do, what they see that you are built to be able to move in a swift and very effective and efficient manner. And that's not a bad thing. Hey, I'd even say this: there's some positions that you might occupy that God might even want you to be in for a season, right? To prepare you for the next steps. I don't think that Paul would have been able to be the influential, I don't want to say argumentative person, but persuasive person that he was, had he not come from a background of already being very well versed in the law, right? He could speak to Jews and Gentiles just alike, same caliber, same level of influence, because of his knowledge base. If he hadn't had the prior position that he had, even though he was persecuting them believers and saints, right? If he hadn't gone through that season of life, if he had never occupied that position, he may not have been prepared for where God took him. So I'm not trying to, I guess, put the idea in your head that every position is necessarily bad, or you should just be turning down this position or that position. You should never find yourself in positions of authority, and you should never elevate. Now, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to get you to understand is that every position, every beck and call, everything that somebody places at your feet or at your fingertips and says, hey, this could be yours, or even individuals who will try to pull you into positions by force, even individuals who will try to volunteer you what you're going to do and what you're going to be and what you're supposed to do. Those things may not always be for you. And I even contend that just like in the context of Christ, how much sense would it have made for Christ to walk into a position of being a king, knowing that he's already King of Kings, Lord of Lords, but to walk into a position of being a king only to sacrifice himself for the sins of the whole world not too long after? What purpose would that serve? And then also, how would he have been able to fulfill the prophecy of coming and being the sacrifice for the entire world in the position of a king, when now I can pull strings, now I can play these games and da. Now I'm invested and I'm being enrolled and encumbered by the politics of the day and of the time. Not to say he couldn't do it. God can do what he wants to do, when he wants to do it, how he wants to do it. But what I'm trying to get you to see is that he had a purpose the same way you have a purpose, the same way I have a purpose. He had a calling the same way you have a calling, the same way I have a calling. And when we have our calling and when we have our purpose and we see the direction that God has taken us, it's very, very evident to us that every position that is available to us is not necessarily for us. I know we like power sometimes. I know we like authority sometimes. I know we like the feeling of having a title. I know we like the feeling of having a position. It's all cool, but it's all cool until the desire for power, authority, and position begins to outweigh your ability or your internal desire to make sure you're submitting to God's purpose and plan for you first. I can promise you 100%, and I know this from experience, walking into positions that could be cool, but do not coincide with your purpose or the purpose that God has placed on your life, rather, is nothing more than a gratified hindrance. And so I'm just telling this to you because I think in today's time, especially when so many of us are looking to find our identity and our place and what we're supposed to be doing and what that looks like, rather than chasing transformational change as God allows, a lot of times we begin to chase power, status, position. We begin to chase the things that people can look at, point at, and say, hey, he's doing something right. Hey, he's bossing up. He's elevating XYZ. But that's not what God is looking at. And honestly, there's a lot of people in high positions, great positions of power, that if we're being very frank, they're not doing very good with the things that they have on their plate. It's because they probably weren't intended for that role. Or even if they were intended for their role, they haven't submitted themselves to service, and they're still submitting themselves to themselves. And so on today, let me encourage you with this. Just because you're gifted doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use your gift in the way that everybody wants you to use your gift. It's completely okay to protect your gift and dedicate it to God first and let him show you what he wants you to do with it. It's completely okay to be patient with your gift and let God show you how to deploy it in a way that truly brings the glory back to him. There's very little merit in just being busy for the sake of being busy. So on today, I'm not saying stop serving. I want you to be the best servant that you could possibly be, the same way I'm trying to be the best servant and disciple I can possibly be. All I want you to do is that as you are elevated, because when you serve God, he will elevate you. As you are being elevated, make sure that it's God that's elevating you and not man. Because the higher and higher you get, the fruit looks totally different depending on who's elevating you and bringing you up. But my name is Avery Taylor. You are tuned into the Larger Than Logic podcast, and I'm so glad you have allowed me to be a part of your journey. Share this with your brother, share this with your cousin, share this with your friend. Because once again, the more men that can adopt the mind that is inside of Christ, the better the world can be. You know what time it is.